The following is a production of cprundown.com. The views and opinions expressed by the host of this podcast are those of the individual and not of any affiliated companies. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Rundown on Fun, a weekly podcast covering the Cedar Fair Entertainment Company, the amusement industry, and the business of fun. Here are your hosts, Karsten Anderson, Evan Schultz, and Kyle Hu.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Rundown on Fun, a weekly podcast where we cover Six Flags, Cedar Point, and everything to do with fun. And we're back this week for our, I'll just call it Haunt Mega episode, where the only thing we really have to talk about tonight is haunt attractions at the various parks.
That is very true. And I think Evan and I are pretty much getting almost, I guess, like a, I don't know. We're not using any equalizers or anything. Evan and I are awesomely sick right now. So this is how dedicated we are to this podcast.
I call it the yearly Halloween Horror Nights flu.
See, I don't get that though. So
because you live in Florida.
Yeah, right.
I'm used to it.
I bet you, if you came up to Cedar Point, you get the Halloweekends flu.
Probably.
I got that the year I worked Halloweekends.
Oh boy.
But yeah, I guess we should mention that we touted for weeks that it was going to be we're going to do a Halloween Horror Nights specific episode, then we were going to do a Cedar Point Halloweekends specific episode. Well, life and stuff got in the way, so now we're just mushing it together into one big. We do
apologize about that, but we were going
to do a Halloween Horror Nights preview before we even went to it. At least you and I, Karsten. Well, we went to it last weekend, got really sick. You more than me. And now as we record this, Cedar Point Halloweekends is opening tomorrow. As y'all listen to it, it's been open for 2 days. So so we're just going to mush everything together and go from there. So apologies, but here we are.
Right. Before we jump into the spooky or anything like that, and I was going to say, I was there for the send-off for Snake River Falls. I'm sorry, my brain is mush, and got to see that go. That was sad. Got to see the last rider in the boat and everything. That was a little chaotic. It was. I was sad. Like I said, sad to see it go. Got some really cool pictures and some video and stuff and everything. If you want to check it out on our Facebook page. I can't wait to see what Cedar Point has in store. I don't know if it's like a coming attraction for this coming, this coming 2025, or if there's going to be, we go into 2025 and it's completely raised and there's some footers and things like that when we go in there, possibly to winter chill out. Who knows? But it's exciting times. So, but anyway, speaking of exciting times, I did actually I just at a whim, I was like, oh, wow, I'm bored. And I'm like, oh, hey, why don't I put the calendar photos, the contest up to possibly have your photo printed out and in our 2025 CP Rundown calendar. If you have really, really good park pictures, that's no selfies that, people can't follow the rules. So I've been getting a lot of selfies. So no selfies, no on-ride photos, no photos taken on the rides, the normal park rules. But if you take a really cool photo and you think it's really good and it's, not taken on a potato phone, and I'm
biting my tongue so much. Some of the submissions that I've seen.
Yeah, you've seen some of the submissions, but it's not taken on like a potato phone. Like Kyle, I think you still have a flip phone, don't you?
Yeah, I do. It's in my desk drawer, actually.
Yeah. Don't be taking pictures.
Kyle will not be submitting photos.
An iPhone and an Android phone, things like that.
Or you're professionally taking photos.
Or a photo that was taken really well with a camera or something like that. Just looking for like a 2000 by 2000 or so. And when you'd send that to me, that's why I have them email, because Facebook dubs it down, things like that. So when it's not dubbed down, when you send that photo to me, I can see what the demographics of that photo is. One, if it's going to be able to fit what we're trying to go for, and then two, if it's going to be the size that it needs, because it needs to be at least by like 2000 by 2000 or so, just for printing purposes, or it'll be really grainy. And I don't even print, the printer won't even actually print. It'll flag it. And then I'm like, crap. So then I got to try to find and scramble and things like that. But anyway, it's going until.
What is that email? What is that email to send?
Oh, yes. CP Rundown at gmail.com is the email to submit to. You have until, I believe, October 1st is the deadline I set. And get those photos in. The earlier, the better. We have a pretty good. Evan, I sent you a little preview of what I've been coming along with and stuff, and we've got a pretty good amount of photos already for the.
As much as I joked or was trying to hold my tongue, some of y'all send some really damn good pictures.
Yes,
some of y'all really know what you're doing.
Yes, and you tell that there's passion and there's love behind it. And that's what we do. We set the calendar pretty much at cost, and then we just go from there. So feel free to submit your photo and see if you make it into the 2025 calendar. And if you don't, then you can submit for 2026 when we do that. Or if your photo does get selected, you will get a little bit of a discount, like $1 off. And we're already taking a hit, so the $1 off comes really hard out of my pocket. But just a way of saying thank you. So
yeah, that $12 that you're spending on the on each person's really hurting you, huh?
Well, yeah.
You gotta break out the CP Rundown credit card.
Yeah, that is that's very true. But yeah, anyway, right. So but that's you have until October 1st. We'll talk about it again on the next episode and preview. And
yeah, y'all are gonna get annoyed with us talking about it, but it's better than talking about Top Thrill 2.
Yeah, that's my new little segue in the beginning. Woo!
All right, so shall we get this haunt Halloweekends
spooky music, Kyle? Where's some spooky music?
Yeah, I think we had that last year.
Yeah, well, we don't have it this year.
That's all right. That's all right. We don't have it this year. Let's just roll right into it, Evan.
So, in years past, we've gone through each Cedar Point maze and outdoor scare zone and told you the whole spiel about them. Read the description from the Cedar Point website. This year, there's no new mazes or scare zones, so we're not going to do that. I'll just kind of mention really quickly, just to remind y'all what they got. So first and foremost, just housekeeping. Cedar Point Halloweekends is open Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. So opening day was 2 days ago. As you listen to this, September 12th. That's Thursday. They're open from 6 to midnight on Thursdays. On Fridays and Saturdays, they're open from 11 a.m. till midnight. And on Sundays, they're open from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. And on Sundays, the outdoor scare zones are closed. So with that in mind, quickly, our mazes for this year are Bloodbath. That is it near Steel Vengeance. It's themed to vampires and a club, kind of similar to Club Blood from years ago. We have the Midnight Maze, which is Mr. Midnight himself. He has his own maze, and all his creepy happenings occur in that maze. We have Fairground Freak Show. That's located near the Wave Swinger. That's your typical carnival, I guess, maze, circus, carnival, whatever. Then we have Slaughterhouse. That is near, fittingly, the Barnyard. That's your, Slaughterhouse. Very simple. Not much to explain there. And then finally, the last indoor maze is the Haunting of Erie Estate. That is located near, I was going to say Scrambler, but that's not where Scrambler is anymore. Near Planet Snoopy. We'll say near Planet Snoopy. And that is walking through your typical old creepy mansion. And then the outdoor scare zones are Clowns Hall of Infamy Tour. That is on the Gemini Midway. There is a live show associated with that, and there's clowns roaming around the Midway. Then you have Blood on the Bayou. That is out on the former Forbidden Frontier Island, and it's New Orleans voodoo themed. It goes around the old buildings and whatnot that they used for Forbidden Frontier. It's a cool location for a haunt, and it really helps Millennium's night rides with all the fog. Next, we have the Corn Stalkers 2.0 Revenge of the Pumpkinheads. This is in Thunder Canyon, like literally in the trough for Thunder Canyon. It's a corn maze. Cutthroat Cove. This is underneath Maverick. themed to pirates. And finally, we have Tombstone Territory, which I'm seeing they actually kind of changed the name on this year. It is Tombstone Territory Doc McCoffer's Evil Elixirs. So I don't know if they're changing anything with Tombstone Territory this year, but it is located in Frontier Town, kind of near Maverick, as you're heading towards Steel Vengeance and Maverick's entrance. So that's super fun and exciting. My favorite time of year. But I will say that even though there's no new haunts, there is, I'm going to say 2 new shows, because opening ceremonies is different every year. So that's always worth checking out each year, because it's going to be different each year. And then the new show this year that I would say, I guess, is replacing Midnight Syndicate, which we no longer have, is the new Midnight's Curse, which I believe will take place on the Cedar Point, what do they even call the stage? The main stage by Iron Dragon.
Celebration stage?
Yeah, there it is. So new Midnight's Curse is a carnival of tortured souls trapped in the never-ending, inescapable web of nightmares. Daring acts that are drawn up from the depths of your deepest fears take to the stage in this intense acrobatic show. So it sounds like it's going to be a lot like Midnight Syndicate was last year, but just not with Midnight Syndicate music. Mr. Midnight will be there. He will be creepy. He will be awesome. I love that character so much.
Yes.
Other than that, we have all the same shows that you've known and loved for the last few years. Butchers of Rock is the Clowns music show by Gemini. They have a new stage this year that is elevated from the midway. It's on top of a shipping container. Fangs After Dusk. I think that's just a rock show, I believe, which is inside the Red Garter Saloon, I think. Charlie Brown show. Another music show called The Shrieks. The Witch Sisters. Wake the Dead, a murder mystery musical, which I believe is back in Frontier Town at the Lusty Lils show place. And let's see, what else is worth mentioning? They don't really go into detail on rides this year, which I think kind of means everything is planned to be open, except obviously the water rides. The kids areas will close at, they do say the kids areas will close at 10 p.m. when the park is open until 10 p.m. or later. So keep that in mind. Other than that, it sounds like you could kind of expect the full lineup of rides to be open.
It's exciting.
That being said, if you go on Thursday, don't be shocked if Corkscrew's closed or Gemini, but they don't specifically say that. So just kind of keep an eye out. We'll try to update that.
I'm sure it would have to do with staffing,
Yeah, they'll go week by week with staffing. Karsten, you'll be there for opening night.
I'll be there tomorrow. Yeah.
And so, and I'll be there a couple times this weekend. So for our next recording, when we talk about Halloweekends and how it was, we'll be able to kind of give you more information on what rides are operating. But, if you're a thrill seeker, your rides are open besides Top Thrill 2. Oh, and something I forgot to mention with the shows, because they haven't put it on their website yet. The Skeleton Crew is back. They are going to be on the boardwalk in front of the giant wheel where the stage was for Boardwalk Nights. So that's really exciting. Obviously, with it not being on the website yet, there's no real details on that, but Skeleton Crew was a big fan favorite for years and years and years.
So that'll be exciting.
Yes. So that'll probably be more of a daytime show, also with acrobatics and all that good stuff. Skeleton Crew was awesome, especially the trampolines and stuff. I hope they bring that back. Halloweekends is my favorite time.
I mean, I'm sure they're gonna have a bunch of different food options or different foods, themed foods and things like that.
Let me bring up Tony's blog. He mentioned some new food. He didn't go into detail.
Well, let me read. Let me read. So if you're not into scary things, there's 2 options for you. Number 1, there's actually you can purchase something called, it's like a Nobu necklace. This year it looks like it's a ghost or something. But anyway, what that does is that the Nobu necklace, like if you have it lit up and everything and you put it on yourself or whatever, you're walking around the scare zones and everything, like the scare actors are not supposed to, you're not supposed to get scared. So in case you're wanting to do some of these things and walk around the park and not have to worry about being scared, you can buy one of those. And then I was going to say they do have stuff for the kids, especially during the day. They've got a ton of stuff for the kids. They got like a trick or treat where they can, the little kids can, dress up in their costumes.
Because
you
like mentioned trick or treat, I want to mention something about trick or treat that Tony put in the press release. New this year, the kids trick or treating stations are going to be themed to former Cedar Point scare zones and haunted houses. So the trick or treat stations, one's going to be Maniacal Mechanical Screamworks, Pharaoh's Secret,
cool.
Fear Fair, Zombie High School, Happy Jack's Toy Factory, and Toxic Tunnel of Terror. So that'll be something, honestly, for even us to check out. Even though we're not trick or treat, it'll be cool to see these little nods to
nods to the past for sure.
Yeah, so that's really cool.
What's cool is they actually have a haunted house for the kids. It's called the Magical House on Boo Hill. 12 and under, it needs to be accompanied by an adult. And you do, at least past years you got candy at the end. So, which was really cool. But they also have like a ton of different activities. Like your kids can go have fun in the crazy corn box. There's a bunch of corn and everything. That's like, it's almost like a sandbox, but it's filled with a bunch of corn. There's like these old tractors that you can like ride around, like push tractors and things like that. There's there's like a hay maze for the kids and everything. There's also like a corn maze as well. There's like a hay maze and a corn maze, which is pretty cool. You can also dig up bones, which is cool. Like there's a big sandbox.
Reminds me of Dinosaurs Alive.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And then they also have like a bunch of things that you can like make a bunch of, you can make a bunch of racket and stuff and everything. They got like the Boneyard Jamboree where you can like, hit a bunch of stuff and make whatever. They have a spooky I Spy. So like, that's pretty cool where you got to find like the little things around the park and stuff and everything for the kids to find stuff and everything. Lots of crafts. Like there's a lot of, like you can create like bracelets and there's coloring. There's also pumpkin patch picking too. So if you can pick like a little pumpkin and stuff like that. And I would assume you could take it home as well, and you can probably decorate it too. My favorite, which I want to get one of you guys in, maybe later on the season or something, is working with the Slime Works. You get to play with slime. To where they let you play with slime and stuff, and you can put like all kinds of mix-ins and eyeballs, and I just love slime. So it doesn't, it's an extra fee.
I always see them advertising that, but I never really honestly knew what it was.
Yeah. And then there's also the pumpkin decorating, they got like paint and stuff and everything for that. There's a monster makeover where they'll have like an airbrush station to make like makeup and stuff for the kids. And yeah, just a bunch of fun stuff. So make sure you check out cedarpoint.com/Halloweekends and check out all of this information that we're giving you, so that way you can, be up to date on everything and see everything that the park has to offer, because there's a ton of stuff.
I want to mention two more things because it's kind of hidden on the website. You have to actually look for press releases. Something new that all the Cedar Fair legacy parks are doing this year, it seems, or at least Cedar Point and Knott's Berry Farm. I know I've seen it. Maybe Kings Island it's not called this at every park, but Cedar Point's calling it the Mr. Midnight's Lantern. Guests at Halloweekends can unlock spooky features throughout the park with Mr. Midnight's interactive lantern activated by invisible spirits. The new lantern will reveal hidden secrets and behave in mysterious ways as it reacts inside haunted mazes during live performances and at select locations in the park. Guests can purchase the interactive lantern at select retail locations inside the park. Limited quantities available. That sounds a lot like what Universal does with like the Harry Potter wands and stuff.
Yeah, it might be more interactive.
Gonna be dumbed down. It's going to be dumbed down from that.
It might be interactive when everybody had those bubble wands for Winterfest, and you would go over to those interactive snowmen, and then all of a sudden the snowman would like
light
do
up
something or whatever and create bubbles and all kinds of stuff. So that's cool.
Down here,
really cool.
Down here in Central Florida, we have that same thing over at SeaWorld. They introduced it last year, and it returned this year for their Howl-O-Scream event. But ours are, instead of lanterns, they're torches that you carry with you.
Ooh, cool.
Okay.
And almost kind of culty and creepy.
Yeah, they just trigger. Ours are not in our indoor mazes over at SeaWorld, but in the outdoor scare zones and one of the two big shows we have, they trigger special audio cues and special effects and stuff as you're walking around the park.
That's cool. That's really cool.
So I'd imagine the Cedar Point ones are going to be pretty much the same thing.
Probably the same tech.
Okay, that's cool. I do want to mention really quick before you say what you're going to say, Evan. Single day tickets for Halloweekends. You can start as low as $34.99, and that's a limited time offer. And that is going to be after you guys listen to this, unfortunately. But anyway, watch for ticket deals because I'm sure the park will come out with more ticket deals. But if you do buy the ticket for $34.99, it's good until September 29th, which is pretty cool. So,
yeah. Then the last thing is just they did mention slightly some of the new food there's new specialty food for this year's Halloweekends. A lot of different stuff that they haven't tried before, I don't think. So they mentioned glazed gargoyle chicken wings tossed in a candy gloss shell. That just sounds super weird, but okay. Apple cider donut bundt cake, which sounds very good. Butternut squash and prosciutto pizza. I think I pronounced that right. Deep fried cheesecake.
Oh, that's
the thing that I am 100% most excited for, and I don't even know what the details on it are. The Hellfire fresh cut fries. So I don't know. It's probably going to be like super spicy ghost pepper or whatever. Super excited to try that. And then the mummy roll dark chocolate cake with cookies and cream whipped filling and more.
Well,
limited food items can be purchased at select locations throughout the park.
I was going to say you'll definitely want to.
Those French fries are being purchased on Friday.
I was going to say you might want to travel with me when you decide to go to the park because I have. Let me try to pull it up here. A pass perk I get a free fresh cut French fries when I purchase a fire on the stick fried cheese. Is that on here?
Yeah, no, they don't mention that. I don't know what that is, but okay.
That's what it says on my pass perk. So
okay, sure.
Maybe there's more fiery stuff. It says and more.
Yeah.
So maybe that's more. So.
I'm sure there is. And Halloweekends always lends itself to spicy stuff. So
right.
I'm very intrigued. God, bring me back those Nashville chicken tenders, please.
Yeah, you're like, oh, I need it so bad.
Oh, tears of joy with those suckers. They were so spicy, but so good.
Yeah, they also So I'm reading that press release from the park, and it says they are talking about the skeleton crew, and then they're going to have the flip and bounce high into the air. Cool, good stuff.
Anyways, so that's enough about what we are going to do this weekend. What did we do last weekend, Kyle?
So last weekend, you both came down to my neck of the woods, and we visited Halloween Horror Nights over at Universal Studios Florida.
For my second year in a row, and my second year all time.
And Karsten, how many years does this make for you?
As many years as you have under your belt, Kyle.
So I'm at 9.
I think that would be 9 because I started going when it was the
25th
years, anniversary, right?
Yeah,
25 years of fear, right?
Yep, that's when I went too. A little fun fact about that was definitely not supposed to go that year. Wasn't even like on my radar of something that we were gonna do. But my mom at the time came down to Orlando to run the Disney Wine and Dine half marathon, and there had been a hurricane earlier in the year, and Horror Nights actually missed an entire operating weekend for the hurricane, and tacked it on at the end of the event. So 2 weeks before we were supposed to come down, they announced that hey, they'd be running Horror Nights while we were there, and that's what actually got us to go the first time. And since then, we've not missed a year. But
and you loved it so much, you moved it down there. You moved down there,
right?
Yeah, that's pretty much the sole reason, honestly.
So, so you guys have been doing it for a while. I'm just now getting into it, but I feel like I've become just as big a fan as anybody. I follow it religiously. I follow all the pages on Twitter with leading up to the event and figuring out what houses are going to be this year. And I mean, I know it's, we've only been through 2 weekends of the event. Kyle, I think, is literally going to, once we stop recording, go hit the first night of weekend 3.
So that's the plan right now. So with fall being my busiest time of the year, it also lends itself to some really weird working hours. And tomorrow I don't actually have to be to work until like 5 in the afternoon. So I'm thinking, I'm looking at,
and like Horror Nights is open till 2 a.m.
Yeah, and I'm looking at wait times right now as we're recording at 8:30, and they don't look too bad. So I think I might pop over when we're done.
And you could get to Universal in what, 10 minutes, 15 minutes?
This time of night, 15 minutes.
So there you go. So those of us that don't have that luxury, we have to make the most of our trips in just one weekend. I was there for 2 nights. Karsten, I think you were there for what, 3 or 4 nights, weren't you?
Something like that, yeah.
I think so. So I flew down Friday. I was at Horror Nights all night Friday. Got through 9 of the 10 houses just by standby queue lines. And Kyle was with me when there was like a 2-hour rain delay that we had. So pretty darn good for one night at Horror Nights without Express Pass. And Saturday I went back after spending the day at Islands of Adventure and did the last house I needed to do and some of my favorites, and got on the rides that are open in Universal Studios during Horror Nights. So it was a really successful weekend for me. Then flew home Sunday. So what we're going to do, since we didn't do a full Horror Nights preview episode or extravaganza, what we were going to do at the time was in detail explain each of the houses and then give our individual hype lists, and then come back this week and say, hey, yeah, remember our hype list? Well, here's what we actually thought. Well, now I'm just going to condense all of that. So I'll give you my hype list, and as I'm doing that, I will explain each of the houses very briefly, kind of like I did with Cedar Point, and then give my actual list, and then y'all can tell me what you
if you want the nitty gritty on all the houses, go to the website.
Yeah. So Universal is very well known for, while they do come up with their own stories, they focus a lot on their IP houses, where they take a movie that's popular right at this moment, or even a very classic, and make a Halloween Horror Nights house out of it. So with that in mind, there's 10 houses each year. They change every year. This was my original hype list, and I'll start from the bottom, and y'all will see it changed a lot.
So before Evan gives his hype list and then his actual list, we're going to rapid fire the houses so that you, the listeners, know the brief story and what we're talking about here. So there are 10 haunted houses at Halloween Horror Nights. We're going to start with A Quiet Place. Make a sound and you won't last long. Monstrous creatures will hunt you down as the world of the first 2 films comes to terrifying life. Next up is Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. An ancient artifact has released a chilling new entity, Garaka. He'll stop you cold. Only the Ghostbusters can keep you from getting iced. Next up is Insidious the Further. Enter the Further as demons try to ensnare you. The red-faced demon will lure you into his lair. Keyface will unlock your fears, and more. Next up is Eternal Bloodlines. Get caught up in an epic battle as Sakaya Van Helsing and the Bride of Frankenstein go up against Dracula's daughter and her monstrous mavens. Next up is Monsteros, the Monsters of Latin America. And that one is all in Spanish, so I'm just gonna jump a little bit.
Latin American monster folklore and stuff.
Yeah, with La Muerta as your guide, try to survive the night with 3 terrifying legends. Up next is Slaughter Cinema 2. It's time for another horror movie marathon at the Cary Drive-In. Scream through scenes from creature features, grindhouse gore, and more. Next up is the Museum Deadly Exhibits. A Folklore's Museum's newest exhibit, The Rotting Stone, has released an evil spirit that decays everything, and it's coming for you. Next is Major Sweets Candy Factory. You're chaperoning a field trip to a candy factory when the free samples transform the kids into candy-coated killers. Next is Goblin's Feast. Enter a goblin village where a feast is being prepared for goblins, orcs, hobgoblins, and witches, and you're the main course. And finally is Triplets of Terror. You're invited to the Barmy Triplets birthday celebration, but their kind of party involves recreating the murders of their entire family. And that is a very rapid-fire rundown of all 10 houses at Halloween Horror Nights this year.
So had we done our episode last week, we would have talked about them more and whatnot. But since we had to combine shows, I'll go in my hype list, and then Karsten, you could give yours, and Kyle, you yours last week or last time we recorded?
I gave my hype list, and I generally have a rule that I will not rank houses until the third week, which starts tonight. That being said, though, I will give kind of my pre-mid-season, like my pre-mid-season rankings here, because there are definitely a few houses that I favor over a few others. So these aren't official, and they're gonna change, but you can see what I'm thinking so far.
All right. So on my hype list, starting from the bottom, I got number 10, Triplets of Terror. Number 9, Goblin's Feast. Number 8, A Quiet Place. Number 7, Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. Number 6, Eternal Bloodlines. Number 5, The Museum Deadly Exhibits. Number 4, Major Sweets Candy Factory. Number 3, Monstruos, The Monsters of Latin America. Number 2, Slaughter Cinema 2. And number 1, Insidious, The Further. So that was my hype list. Do we want to go right into my what ended up happening? Or Carson, you want to give your hype list?
You go for it.
Okay. So my hype list changed a lot to my actual rankings, except number 1. I'll kill the hype now or the lead up now. Insidious stayed at number 1, but I'll get into why. So number 10, falling from pretty high up, was The Museum Deadly Exhibits. I just didn't like it. It just wasn't good to me. I had a bad run through, I will say, but the story didn't translate to the house.
It felt like Eden Musée.
Yeah, honestly, it felt like Cedar Point could pull that house off, and that's not knocking Cedar Point. It felt regional park-y.
Can I interject really quick?
Go ahead.
Not to completely derail. So some of you might be wondering why I wait 3 weeks at least before I start to form any kind of rankings. That right there, what Evan just said of I had a bad run, these houses are phenomenal, and they're larger than life, and there's so many moving pieces, and they operate for 6-7 hours straight. It is completely possible that you will go through and miss scares, or you will go through and not see details because there's so much stuff going on, which is part of the reason why I wait a couple weeks, is to give everything a fair shot. I give every house like 3 or 4 runs. That way, if I get a bad run or I miss something or whatever reason, the house isn't hurt by that. Obviously, you guys don't have the luxury of doing that. I just wanted to kind of explain why I wait 3 weeks at least, because I don't think I ever have. But continue.
And that makes sense because, like you said, you have the luxury of seeing each house for everything it can be, because you go through these houses 10, 15, 20 times a year, where I get once, maybe twice.
Right.
So that's unfortunate for these houses, but and I don't mean to knock anything that the people that put these things together do, because they're still the best of the best. But that being said, moving on to number 9 was Monstruos, The Monsters of Latin America. That was also very high on my hype list. Another one, Universal puts out a podcast that they call Discover Universal Podcast, and part of their series is they will give backstory for some of their original content, haunted houses. And they did that for Monstruos, and it sounded so cool. It sounded like it was going to be legitimately horrifying. And again, could have been a bad run through, but a lot of that story that they told on their podcast didn't translate into the actual house. Carson, if you listened to that podcast, there was a creepy whistle involved. Didn't hear that in the house. There was a barn and a cabin in the woods. I expected to walk through those areas, and you really didn't. I felt like they could have done so much more with it. So anyways, moving on. Next was Goblin's Feast. That pretty much stayed in the same spot. Really cool sets, I thought. Story was just kind of dumb. That's why it was low on my hype list anyways.
It felt really short.
Yeah, it was short. I heard people calling it Zombie Shrek. Kyle, that might have even been you. That's that.
Yeah, that was me that said that.
And that's true. It really cool sets, but yeah, it was short and just not good on the scares, I didn't think. I know a lot of people have loved Goblin's Feast this year, though. So yeah, take that for what it's worth. The next, Major Sweets Candy Factory. This one also fell a little bit in my hype list.
Oh,
It really liked the story, but the scares and the sets weren't as good as others. I will say, outside of Monstros and Museum, those two are very far in the bottom compared to the top 8 to me. So just because Goblin's Feast and Monstros are one spot apart, there's a big difference between those two, I think. Major Sweets was cool. I did like the story. I don't really like the location, like that house, which was Chucky last year. It's tight, it's compact, it's cramped. So then moving on, Slaughter Cinema 2 also fell a lot. My hype list and my actual list basically were complete reverses of each other, which is funny. Slaughter Cinema 2, again, now we're at number 6, so we're getting close to the top half here. It was a fantastic house. I can't. There's just others that were better. I love all the stupid little movies that they create, and I look forward to hopefully some of those becoming their own houses. I believe they did that with Slaughter Cinema 1. Some of those fake movies they made up became houses later on. You could correct me if I'm wrong. So yeah, and it's a cool concept for a haunted house, right? Having all these different themes within one house. Definitely maybe a lot to take in, especially if you only get to go through it once. This is one that I feel like would have grown on me if I had gotten to go through it a lot, like Kyle gets to. So then next, this is, to me, like, these top 5 were just remarkably good houses. It was so hard to rank these. But number 5 was Ghostbusters for me. And saying that's number 5 right in the middle of the pack does not do it justice, because it was fantastic. The sets are awesome. There's even some good scares in there, and that's kind of surprising for a Ghostbusters themed house. I think a lot of people thought this was going to be kind of the joke house of the year, the purposely funny one like Chucky was last year. Ghostbusters was so good. It really was. The scenes were awesome. It was cold because it's Frozen Empire.
Slimer was awesome.
It was really good. And entering the house was awesome, and really felt like you were walking the streets of New York City in some spots.
Yeah.
So the next was Eternal Bloodlines. This one, I think I got favored by a really good run through, where other people were kind of like, yeah, it's an okay house. I had a really good run through. I loved the theme. The sets were really good. Really, 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 really good house. The only reason I think it's above Ghostbusters is just because the scares were a little better for me. The third is Triplets of Terror. Triplets of Terror was my least hyped house. I thought it was a stupid story. I thought they weren't going to be able to do much with the set. I had 2 really, 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 really good run-throughs of that. The story was just a typical slasher, crappy, bloody, gory, whatever. Didn't interest me. It was phenomenal. The actors did such a good job. I liked that they kind of spun it into a podcast as you were walking through it. There was a room that they were like, playing a fake podcast episode, and it seemed like they were kind of trying to tell the story like you were in the podcast, if that makes sense. The number 2 was A Quiet Place. This also jumped a lot on my hype list. I just didn't know what they were going to do with a movie that's based off of being silent in a haunted house. And it was far from silent in that haunted house, but it didn't matter because the sets were perfect. They were so accurate to the actual movie. Carson, did you see A Quiet Place?
Nope.
Okay, well then you should, because
I know
it really not seeing the movies is doing this house injustice.
Yep.
Kyle, I remember you saying you had seen the movies. The scenes were perfect. The nail in the stairs was there, and the silo in the first movie, and the stupid rocket ship, and the boat dock in the second movie. It was so accurate, and the house was scary. I mean, they had a lot of actors, but they also had a lot of puppets. I think that's what they're referred to. That scared the crap out of me every time. It's such a good house. And then finally, Insidious the Further. I'm never somebody that gets scared in haunted houses, but the Insidious movie scared the crap out of me, especially 1 and 2. And this house, it's just jump scare after jump scare after jump scare after jump scare.
This was the house. This was the house that there was literally like a bunch of mannequins like all set up everywhere, right? That was trippy because you didn't know.
Two different rooms.
Yeah, it was two different rooms. You didn't know which was there and which wasn't there. And anytime you would, because I got to go through that house a bunch, anytime that you would go through that, it would be different. There would never be like a person that was always in that same spot, or there'd be a mannequin in that spot. And then, it was almost like, what's that one that I had number one last year? Oh, Kyle, what was
Blood Moon?
Blood Moon. Yeah. It almost kind of felt like Blood Moony to me, at least a little bit. So, but I'm like, God, it was.
I absolutely agree. Those two rooms are scary. And then, spoiler alert, the final room, it's just, they throw every monster in the series at you. The key hand guy, the bride in black, the red monster, the red demon monster, whatever the heck his name is, the man who can't breathe. They throw all those characters at you. And I heard somebody refer to it as a pinball scare because you get scared from the jump scare from the left side. So you scream and you're like, oh, that guy's scary. I'm going to look to my right. Well, then there's another jump scare on your right. And then, so he scares you and you look ahead of you and the red-faced demon's in your face. Yep. So this house was so long. It felt like it was 15 minutes walking through that house.
A great house.
It was so good. It was so good. I had to like sit down. I don't get scared in haunted houses, but I had to like take a deep breath after I got through that. And I'm not trying to be like, oh, macho man, I'm not afraid of haunted houses. It's just, I'm there for the sets and the immersion, and this scared the living daylights out of me. And just when I thought it was over, I relaxed a little bit. I saw the light at the end of the tunnel. I saw the security guards and the cops standing there, like, because they have to have a lot of security at these events. I'm like, okay, it's over. Stupid red-faced demon jumps out in front of me again, and I about peed myself. A cop is laughing at me.
Oh my God.
It was so good. And correct me if I'm wrong, that was in the same location as Dueling Dragons was last year, right?
Yes.
Dueling Dragons was my favorite last year. So something about that location. So that's my list. I loved every minute I was there. I was glad to be able to spend 2 days there this year instead of just one. Got over to Islands of Adventure for a little bit, rode everything good there, rode all the coasters open during horror nights at studios. Can't say enough good things about what they do at Universal. So, Karsten.
Yeah, so without further ado, here's my hype list. Well, going into it, I had I had Goblin's Feast, and then second I had Monsters, because I just was like, I'm just not into that kind of thing. Deadly Exhibits was third on or seventh, I guess you could say. Sixth was External Bloodlines.
Eternal Bloodlines.
Fifth was A Quiet Place.
Mm-hmm.
Fourth, yeah.
I think you're actually at 5 right now.
5, yeah, whatever. I can't count. We all know this.
We're going from the bottom.
Ghostbusters was fourth. There we go. There's too many. Yeah. Major Suites was going to be third. Slaughter Cinema 2. I was so hyped for that. And then Triplets. I was like, dude, that's gonna be good. That's gonna be real good. It's
funny that I had mine at number 10 for Triplets, and
I know, right? We always have opposites. It's funny to see.
I think at the end of the day, our actual lists are going to be pretty similar.
Yeah, I'd say so. So after all of that and everything, I came up with, here's my current list of
starting from the bottom.
I'm not going to give you away my my top number one.
I was excited about Insidious. I love that freaking house.
Monsters. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm same with you. I didn't like. There was just, I don't know. I couldn't vibe with it.
Again, better than anything a regional park is going to do.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't bad. It was just, okay, I did it. Cool. I don't need to go through it again. Like,
it had the shortest line every night for a reason.
Really has. Yeah. So, second was Goblin's Feast, just because I didn't like how short it was. I do like that the new houses that they built over there. That's pretty nice that they built those two brand new houses.
Yeah.
And everything. So those are really cool. Deadly Exhibits, that would be 7th on the list.
Our bottom 3 are the same except in different orders.
Right. External Bloodlines is going to be
That's 7.
7. Yep. A Quiet Place is going to be 6th.
Gotta go see the movies. I bet it goes up if you watch the movies.
Maybe.
And then watch a walkthrough of the house.
Maybe. I went through it and like, I don't know, like I didn't get like, I categorize everything as like scaring, interactive, how the actors are. At least my run through, I got to do, a bunch of whatever, just to make sure that, because what was it? Thursday was it dead night. But anyway, after that, it's literally like you spin a wheel and wherever it lands is where literally it's hard to put these into numbers. So really 1 through 5, that would be, Insidious. Unless I just said that. Man, no, I did not. Yeah. And so Insidious was 5. Ghostbusters, which, was pretty high on my hype list. That was number 4. That was great. I love the Slimer. It was very interactive especially when you're walking out of it. You got the soundtrack blasting, and
yes,
and you get to see the Ghostbuster car and stuff and everything in there, and cool. It's really cool stuff. Major Suites. Oh my gosh! First of all, there's 3 little secret things in there. There right in the very beginning when you walk in there. There is a candy jar and it says free, take one. And if you take one, I'm not going to say what happens. Kyle, you should probably know.
I know. I know what all 3 of them do.
Okay.
I want to know what the candy bowl does. I know what the other 2 do. I want to know what the candy bowl does.
The candy, okay, if you don't want to be spoiled, jump ahead 10 seconds. The candy bowl just puffs air at you.
Oh, okay.
There was that, and then there was 2 red buttons in there. They blink, and you can press them. And
I know what those ones do.
Those ones do stuff. And then what I really liked a lot was when you would walk in there was the smell. It smelled like a candy factory. Like they had that down, and I'm just like, this is like Willy Wonka the Chocolate Factory, only not. And I'm just like, it's so good.
No, I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
I would love to interject for a quick second. Not about the house, but just in general. Horror Nights always used to do these interactive houses. You'd be walking through a house and you see a red button and you hit it and something happens. I mean, it was like a staple from when I started going up until right about the pandemic. And then it just wasn't a thing anymore. I am so glad that they brought back interactive houses. It's so cool. I love it.
Yeah. No, I would agree. I would agree 100%.
One of my all-time favorite Horror Nights houses ever, and I might even be willing to say that this is my number 1 house ever, was Carnival Graveyard from, I believe it was 28. That house was full of red buttons. And one of my funniest moments in a Halloween Horror Nights house was when you were walking through the house, if you hit one of the red buttons, it would jet a big stream of water and just soak the person standing directly in front of you. And I went through, it was the very first time we went through this house for the year. I went through with my dad, and my dad was in front of me, and I hit the button, and it just blasted his pants. And
Did you know that was going to happen at that
No,
point?
I didn't. I'd never been through the house before. I don't like to get the houses spoiled, so I didn't watch anything. He just screamed. We got out of the house, and his pants were just soaked. It was hilarious.
Oh my gosh. That's too funny.
All right.
Second is going to be, and like I said, this is all like spin the wheel kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Triplets of Terror.
Triplets was so good.
Oh, freaking good. So freaking good. Oh my gosh.
Because you probably went through it more than I did. I went through it twice. I'm glad it held up each time.
There's a lot of like I talked to one of the staff members and he was like, "Hey, did you see this?" Because like
there's a map of Ohio in there, and they pinpoint Tiffin.
There's a cop car that says Ohio.
Yeah, it's based in Ohio, which is cool.
And then there's also like at least what I got from my head. I believe, and I didn't read any of the stuff online, which I'm a bad person. I believe
Didn't watch any of the movies either.
I know it's. I believe what it is these kids end up murdering everybody and their parents and their family and whatever kind of thing. At least is what I got. Yep. But there's a snowblower. There's a freaking jacked up bunny rabbit.
Snowing when you walk in.
Yeah. It's so freaking good. And the snowblower's got like chunks blowing out of it, like if someone died from it and stuff. Oh my gosh, it's so. There's a birthday scene. Oh, it's so freaking good. I can keep going on.
Cool.
Yeah,
there's a couple cool special effects with like when they slit the mom's throat and it's like you don't see blood at first, but then suddenly you do. I don't know how they pull that crap off.
Yes, so cool. I don't remember which one this one is, but this might be Slaughter Cinema. But when you walk in and there's the kid that's sitting on the couch and he's throwing up, is that? Which one is that?
That's Slaughter Cinema. It's the Mardi Gras room, which is the very first room in Slaughter Cinema.
Okay, yeah, dude. Every time I like walk through whatever that kid. And by the way, Slaughter Cinema is number one because it was cool because when you'd walk in, there would be a mouse. If you looked on the ground or whatever, and the mouse would come out and it would like retract and stuff and everything. That was cool. Also the smells that they had in different rooms. Mm-hmm. And then like I said, like you'd be like, he literally would, he's such a great actor. He'd like start and he'd just start throwing up, and they have the effect of like you would get soaking wet and you're like, I just, and you're like, what? Yeah. And it's really good. Really, really good. And all the themes with the Jaws head and,
I really hope they take some of those quote unquote movies and make them into their own original content houses in the coming years.
Yeah. I mean, why not? Why not? If it, if you have something like that on paper, I mean, just, let the creative minds kind of go.
And they're so good at that.
But yeah, so that's my list overall. Kyle, what do you have to say about Horror Nights and
just other Orlando stuff? Start talking, Kyle.
So I've been to Horror Nights like 5 times now, probably going to go tonight. Haven't done all the houses each night. That's not really something I like to do. I like to just go and do a couple each night. But solid year. I will say pre-season, this was honestly the least excited I've ever been for Horror Nights.
Me too.
Something changed this year, either with their marketing budget or I don't know. It's just I didn't get the hype that I normally get. But I mean, that being said, it's a pretty darn solid year. So I gave my hype list last week.
Would you say, sorry to interject, would you say they exceeded your expectations then?
I would say because I was not really excited and I had low expectations, they have been exceeded.
Carson, would you agree? Because you also were.
I definitely would agree. I don't think, at least in my opinion, I don't think it's as good as last year's.
No, it's definitely not one of the best years in recent history, but it's not. It's decent.
I have my two favorite houses from this year are probably my favorites. Between both Horror Nights I've been to, my two favorites this year are probably my two favorites overall. But I still say last year overall was a better event.
Yeah, because there was it was so hard to pick the top 8.
Yeah,
and here it's like, well, we can't pick the top 5.
Selfishly, one of the reasons that I was not too excited was because I always buy the Frequent Flyer Plus with Express. That pass sold out within an hour this year. I didn't get one. And I was just so worried that every time I'd go to the event, I'd be waiting 2 hours for houses, and it just wouldn't be fun. I am happy to report that thus far into the season, that has not been the case. I have found that, honestly, for my first time relying on standby, kind of ever for Horror Nights, I always used to get Express. They do seem to be heavily over-posting the wait times. I know
that's good.
I know I texted you guys once that Major Suites was posted like 50 minutes and I waited 8. Anyway, I have had fun this year. I've enjoyed my time. Like I said, my official preseason or mid-season rankings will come out after this weekend. But as of now, I have Goblin's Feast at number 10. Cool house, cool sets. I like the puppets. It's short. It wasn't one that I was super pumped for preseason. I will say though, really impressive what they can do with sprung tents these days. Those two new tents, solid. Yeah. So while I'm not super enthralled with Goblin's Feast, I do have very high hopes that in the future we can see those two house locations kind of flourish. Next up is Monsteros. I've only gotten to run that twice, but it wasn't really my thing. Yeah, wasn't really my thing. Next up at number 8, I have Deadly Exhibits.
So our bottom 3, all 3 of us, we agree.
Okay. Yeah, I have Deadly Exhibits at number 8. Nothing against it. I think it's cool. Visually, it's a really impressive house. Just not something I'm super into.
Just doesn't do anything for me.
Yeah. I mean, it's still fun. I still enjoy it. I'm still going to get a bunch more run-throughs of it. See, this is one of the reasons I don't like ranking houses at Horror Nights either, is it sounds like we're just shitting on these houses, but we're not. Like, any Horror Nights house is leagues above anything that you're going to find anywhere else. So when we're talking,
I said Monstro sucked, but at the same time, it'd be the best house at Cedar Point. Sorry, Cedar Point.
Yeah.
By a absolute country mile.
And I also have to think though. I mean, Universal's got millions of dollars of budget. I'm sure Cedar Point.
Yeah. No, I agree. That's why you can't compare it to the regional park.
Mine is more so. Yeah. I just hate I don't hate ranking houses, but I dislike it because like all of the scare actors at Horror Nights work their asses off night in and night out. And like if I was a Horror Nights actor and I saw that my house was consistently getting ranked number 10, like it would make me feel a little discouraged,
Yeah.
Like so that's why I'm putting in the disclaimer, like all these houses they're good, but
they're
yeah. So all right, Deadly Exhibits was number 7, or I'm sorry, number 8. Number 7, I had Eternal Bloodlines. This one was one that I was kind of hyped for. I've been a very vocal supporter of the Monsters houses in the past couple years. Last year's Monster House, Universal Monsters Unmasked, went down in history as one of my favorite Horror Nights houses of all time. Really, really excited for this one. Unfortunately, it did not do it for me. 10, 9, 8. That was number 7, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Number 6, I have Insidious. Not because it's not a super good or a super scary house. It's just I tend to not enjoy the IP houses quite as much. I think they can have more fun with their original content houses. So unless it's an IP that I'm like really, really into, I tend to rank the IP houses a little bit lower.
Fair.
Number 5 was Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. Super, super fun house. I actually just watched that movie the other night again. And it was really cool to watch it and be like, oh, that's in the house, that's in the house, that's in the house.
Yeah.
So that one's fun. I really do miss when the original Ghostbusters house happened in 2019. And it was like a party scene in line waiting to go in the door. I really wish they could have brought that back in some way, shape, or form, but oh well. Next up is A Quiet Place. One that previous to last weekend I had not had great runs of, but Evan, when I was with you on Friday, I felt that run that we had was really solid, and it actually bumped it up a few places for me.
Yeah, that was good. I had a second run through of that on Saturday night, and it was just as good, if not better. They really were getting hit in their stride, it felt like.
Next up is Triplets of Terror. And this was a house that I had ranked way low on my hype list. This house was really good. Really good.
Like, I'm not going to lie. When I was going through this house and when I was done, I'm like, can they make a movie of this? Because this would be awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, for real.
I'm like, oh my God, please make a movie of this.
That's a really good house.
I had to ask.
Was a really, really good house.
Because I was like, this is not an IP house, right? Like, there's no movie or anything that I missed, because I would watch this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Messed up my mind is, but yeah.
It would be a good slasher film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that one
sure.
was really solid. Definitely one of my contenders for top house this year. Next at number 2, I have Slaughter Cinema 2.
Okay.
Just an awesome house. When they did Slaughter Cinema 1, that was one of my favorite houses.
That's a good one.
I really like how you go into each room, you spend about 30 seconds, and then you change gears and you go do something else. I think it allows them to be a little more creative, and it also allows them to like tell their story very quickly, which is something I enjoy. Super fun house, very visually impressive, just a top-notch Horror Nights house. Number 1 for me is Major Suites, and I have a couple reasons for why Major Suites is my number 1. First of all, a couple weekends
like
ago,
gummy bears.
I love gummy bears, guys. I like candy. A couple weeks ago, I had 2 really, really, really phenomenal runs with B-Cast. So I don't know if you guys know Horror Nights well enough to know when they switch their casts and when their set times are, but I caught 2 runs with B-Cast, and it was just phenomenal. I'm a fan of the smaller, intimate houses, Evan. I know you were walking through and you said, it feels tight, it feels cramped. I enjoy that feeling. I think I'm able to look at everything better. I think it forces them to use the space a little more creatively and make sure that like everything looks good. That is just for me personally, it's one of the things I enjoy about Horror Nights houses is the ones that are a little more small, a little more intimate, a little more just everything's happening right at eye level, essentially. To me, this house feels like Carnival Graveyard and Killer Clowns from Outer Space had a baby. It feels like the best parts of both of those houses while still being new and interesting with the Major Suites. I also just think it's a fun topic for a house.
It's a great theme.
Yeah, you're going
such a good idea.
Going through a candy factory and the candy's turning the kids into killers. Like it's
like a dark Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Yeah. So I just think it's really fun. One of my favorite parts in the house is when the actual crates of candy are moving across the conveyor belt.
Yes.
I think that's really cool.
That, and also, like, if you look above, you'll see the taffy that's like being worked above you too. Yes, yes.
And then started to have like organs wrapped around it.
Yep.
I don't know if you noticed.
Oh, yes.
I also love
dang it.
I also love the 3 interactive features, like I said earlier.
Yes.
So for me, this house is just a 10 out of 10 home run. I really hope that continuing into the season, it continues to perform as good as it has for me, because some of my favorite nights so far have been in Major Suites. To me, it is one of my all-time favorite houses so far. Now, that being said,
really,
everything that I just told you, I mean, not like the all-time favorite, right? But like it's up there and notable.
Yeah.
You know.
It's one of the ones that holds a candle, and you'll remember it.
At this
in
point,
10 years.
At this point, Karsten and myself have experienced 90 Horror Nights houses. So,
wow,
you know, for one to be, you know, I'd say at least in that upper echelon, right? Like somewhere.
And like, how can you rank a house from here versus 9 years ago?
Exactly.
You won't remember anything about that house 10 years ago.
Yeah, I know I don't.
Everything in my list can and probably will change time and time again.
Come on, Mr. Sweet.
Yeah, I'll let you guys know next week, kind of, because I'm going probably tonight, definitely tomorrow, and then maybe Friday. So I'll get at least 2 more nights, if not 3, this weekend before I kind of do my official mid-season rankings. I'll let you guys know if anything changes.
By the way, I do like the jingle when you walk up to the actual house itself. I can't remember what is it. What is the? They got a little jingle to it, and then there's the thing that says something about samples, right?
First of all, Major Sweet himself says, "Major Sweet's candy, flip your lids, kids." And then
something about the samples,
they
right?
said, come on, chaperones, don't let the kids take all the samples.
Yeah.
Something
Yeah,
like
that's it.
that.
At some point, there was a little jingle too. I feel like.
Yeah.
I swear there was, yeah. But it's just like, oh, okay,
But,
you know. Oh.
I also enjoy.
That was my first house of the year too, so kind of a soft spot, I guess.
I also enjoy kinetics in houses when things move and things happen. It's one of the reasons why I liked Carnival Graveyard as much as I did, was because that entire house, things were moving, things were happening, and I got a very similar vibe in Major Suites.
Yes.
So we'll see if it finishes the season at number 1. Right now, it's kind of hard to believe that it won't, but hey, maybe Slaughter Cinema 2 will step up their game, or maybe I'll get a really good run of A Quiet Place, and anything can happen at this point. We're 3 weeks into an 8-week event. Actually, it's like 9 weeks this year. It might even be 10. I don't know.
Hold on. I think it's 10. I'm counting up how many more weekends you got. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, right.
4.
No blackout dates, right?
No.
You got 8 more weekends.
Yeah,
counting
so
this weekend, you got 8 more weekends.
Part of me not being excited for this event, I was hoping to wait. What I was hoping was going to happen was like day before, day of, whatever, they would start selling Express, all season Express again. So I actually didn't buy my pass. I was literally going to walk up to the gate and buy my pass on opening night. And Justin called me. And he's like, hey, did you get your ticket yet? And I was like, no, why? And he's like, opening weekend sold out for the one that me and Justin wanted to get. Because now when you buy a multi-night ticket, you have to pick your day that you want it to start. So I ended up calling on the phone, because a couple years ago they sold out, but they were still selling them on the phone. It was a whole thing. I called to see if I could still buy a Frequent Fear Plus ticket and have opening night be my start date. They looked, they said, no, I cannot. And then I said, well, I saw online that Ultimate Frequent Fear still had availability for tomorrow. Is that still the case? They said, yes, it was. So long story short, I have the Ultimate Frequent Fear Pass, which is good for every single night of the event if I wanted to go.
Yeah, because you really want to go on them Saturdays in October, right?
Yeah.
Totally is a pleasurable time.
Well,
he's going to have perfect attendance, damn it.
I also have something else that I would like to share for anyone who is planning a trip to Halloween Horror Nights. Stay and Scream, effective. Use it. Definitely have your fun with Stay and Scream. But there's a method that I've been picking up on that's even more effective than Stay and Scream. And that is right at about midnight, people start trickling out. And once about 12:30, 1 o'clock hit, you can power hour like 4 or 5 houses right in a row with no line.
On Saturday, to your point, we got off of Gringotts at 11:30. We had not been through any houses yet at 11:30 because there was rain and we didn't get over there till like 9 o'clock anyways. So yeah. At that point, park closes in 2.5 hours. We got off of Gringotts and then did Insidious, Triplets, Ghostbusters, and A Quiet Place, all before park closing. And we had time for one more had we wanted to, but we were like, we got a really good run on Quiet Place to end the night. We're like, that's a good place to stop. We're gonna leave on a high note.
Opening Sunday, which was the day before Labor Day, I hit 5 houses no problem between like the 12:30 to 2 time slot, and I honestly probably could have crunched in like 2 or 3 more if I really hustled, but I didn't want to hustle.
Yeah.
So anyway, to your point, I might actually make my way over there on a couple Saturdays. I'll just make sure it's like 10 o'clock, like right about now is when I'm putting my shoes on and heading over, take my time, get something to eat.
I will say too, with the Stay and Scream though, you can knock out a crap load of houses before it gets busy, especially the back of the park.
You can. On opening night this year, I knocked out 4 before the gates even opened.
We did, in our first hour on Friday, Major Suites, Eternal Bloodlines, Goblin's Feast, and got in line for Slaughter Cinema 2.
Yeah.
So that's pretty darn good.
Other Central Florida happenings, I found myself over at Hollow Scream at SeaWorld Orlando earlier this week. Pretty solid event, guys. Not going to lie. Last year, I was a little underwhelmed. I thought the houses were cool, but the scare zones were kind of lacking.
I think Universal lacks in the scare zones, so
yeah,
that's no.
This year, however, Out of 5, so SeaWorld boasts 5 haunted houses and 7 scare zones.
Jeez.
Out of 5 haunted houses, 4 are brand new this year. Completely brand new. And out of the 7 scare zones, 3 are completely brand new. The 4 houses that they have this year that are brand new are really, really, really good, guys. Ultimate Gamble, which is themed to like a cursed Vegas casino. That one's really fun. They have one called the Water's Edge Wellness Center, which is supposed to be like a spa that's gone wrong. They have one theme. Yeah, that one's fun. And all of the sets are like really good. A lot better. I mean, obviously not Horror Nights level, but better than your average haunt. They have one themed to Journey to Atlantis, which is their water ride.
That's cool.
They have
yeah.
They have another one themed to like a rural farm in Colorado that aliens are invading. That one I think has the most impressive sets.
That's cool.
And then the one returning house has like 3 new rooms.
Gee, so they're going full Horror Nights with that.
Yeah, and then the scare zones. All of the scare zones got improved this year. Like all of the scare zones either added sets, changed locations completely to help with guest flow. It's no Horror Nights, but it's a really solid event. If anyone finds themselves in Orlando with a spare night,
that's
definitely
the kind of stuff that I love about Horror Nights. It's different every year. So if SeaWorld's going to do that, that really puts it on my radar.
Yeah.
For sure.
Have not made it over to Tampa Howl-O-Scream yet, but I had a really solid night there last year too, and I can't wait to go back there.
Cool.
Other than that, it's hot. It's really hot for this time of year.
It's so hot down there this weekend. Oh my god, I thought I was gonna die on Saturday at Islands of Adventure. I'm walking on the city walk, like TSA area, and then going down like that hill going into the entrance of City Walk. I'm like, dude, I don't even know if I'm gonna make it over to Islands.
Yeah.
Saturday's so stinking hot. So and then what did I do? Go walk on Hulk right away. And
so I had a really, really busy week last week, and I had met up with you on Friday for a little bit after I got off work, and I told myself I was going to go back to Horror Nights on Saturday, and then Saturday during the day I actually had to work for like an hour, and then I had to run some errands, and it was so hot and gross and muggy that I came home and took a shower. And I sat down in my recliner. It was about 4 o'clock. And I said, you know what? I'm going to sit here until about 9. When that sun goes down, I'm going to get up and I'm going to run over to Horror Nights and hang out with everybody. Apparently, I fell asleep because I woke up at about 3 in the morning. And it was the TV was on, but like the Xbox had turned itself off. So I was looking at like a blank TV. And it was dark. And I still had my clothes on.
I didn't know where you were.
I didn't know where I was. So it is abnormally hot here right now, but hoping in the next coming weeks to obviously go hit Howl-O-Scream in Tampa, a couple more times at SeaWorld, a couple more times at Universal. I definitely want to hit one of the local haunts here in Plant City this year, Sir Henry's Haunted Trail. So if I go over there, I'll let you guys know how that is, but yeah, it's
those kind of local haunts are always really scary and a little edgier, I guess.
Yeah,
right. You never know what you're gonna get, especially here in Ohio. You're like, all right,
that's fun. Rocket Our Ranch.
Oh yeah, you got a chainsaw with the chain on. That's cool.
Yeah,
exactly.
Rocket Our Ranch is a lot of fun. I'll say that.
Yes. Yeah. Woo. Yeah.
All right. Well, that's our almost hour and a half Halloween. Well, maybe an hour and 15 minutes Halloween extravaganza. Anything else to say?
No,
Oh, well, I met up with when you guys were Evan. You had already been home for like 6 hours at this point, and Karsten and gang were heading to the airport. I went over and rode Penguin Trek with Justin. That was a lot of fun. Yeah, me and him. We both have the SeaWorld Platinum Pass, and one of the free rewards this weekend was a unlimited quick queue for the whole day, good on any ride.
Wow.
So we went over and hit a couple rides at SeaWorld, checked out Penguin Trek. That thing's still running great.
It's a cute little ride.
Yeah.
I need to get over there.
Then we went to Shake Shack after that and got dinner.
Wow. You guys just
had a nice little date.
Yeah, went
had
to
a little ball.
Went to Worldwide Corals, checked out the tanks.
There you go. He finally got someone to go with him.
Yep. But anyway,
Did you go in there for like 5 seconds, or not 5 seconds, like 5 minutes?
Yeah, about.
And then he's like, "All right, we're about done." And
About
walked right
5,
back
10
out.
minutes, he told me about the tank that he's gonna buy, and then he said, "All right, I'm good."
Yep. And he'll tell you, be like, "Oh, this is da 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 da." No offense to him,
The listeners
but I'm just
have
like,
no
I have
idea
no
what's
idea what he's
going on.
talking about. You know,
Worldwide Corals is a saltwater and reef aquarium super center here in Orlando, right down the road from SeaWorld.
yeah.
And Justin's obsessed with it.
He is. But anyway. All right, well, that's going to wrap us for this week. That is all we have to talk about. I need to get going so I can head over to Halloween Horror Nights. That's all I got. We'll see you next week to talk about everything Cedar Point Haunt.
Yep. That's what I had to say. Cedar Point Haunt next week. We'll get to talk about how it was this year. I'll go do Mr. Sweets and Insidious and get crap scared out of you.
And make sure that you share this podcast with all of your friends, your relatives, and your coworkers. Thanks, guys, for listening.
All right, take it away, Justin.
Thank you for listening to the Rundown on Fun. Be sure to follow us on social media to stay up to date on all things Cedar Fair. As always, be kind to your ride operators, and we will see you on the Midway. Good night.